Last night, Robinhood had a presentation where it unveiled a new product to high praise. It was genuinely a superior product, which made many SoFi bulls, myself included, naturally start to worry about Robinhood cannibalizing SoFi's growth and completely dominating the market. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how Robinhood's offering could potentially be very, very negative for SoFi. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start off with what the Robinhood offering is, and secondly, we're going to talk about some of the potential drawbacks and the implications for SoFi. One disclaimer I want to make, even before going into all of that, is I do not own Robinhood. I'm neutral on the company. I've previously been bearish on Vlad himself, but at the end of the day, I'm also a product person, right? I work in software SaaS businesses. I've led product teams for the better half of the decade, and that's really what compelled me to jump on and make a video around this, because regardless of how I feel about Vlad as an individual with what happened in 2021, I acknowledge that this is a great product offering, and hats off to him. It's a superior product that was introduced into the market. I've mentioned in my post on X that the presentation value even feels superior. The product is great, don't get me wrong. The user benefits are great. The user experience, however, is what ties it all together in a great presentation value. And I'll explain why after walking through some of the offerings. So first, they introduced an app redesign whereby everything is customizable from the dashboard all the way down to the charts. And the actual benefits of the offering are quite amazing as well. 5% APY yield on 2.25 million FDIC insurance, 3% IRA match for retirement, 1% unlimited deposit boost for all deposits. It also includes a 3% cashback across the board with no fees, and 5% on travel as well. And throughout the course of this video, I won't even dive into the virtual cards and the anonymous virtual cards, which in my opinion warrant a presentation on their own because they serve a purpose in the market. They meet a need, right? They allow for one-off payments without divulging financial information, which does meet a need in the market. But even without that, going specifically with regards to the presentation, I think demonstrating the ability to sign up for a new credit card in minutes and have it shipped to your house in a few days, I think that alone demonstrates the seamlessness of something that is somewhat novel in the credit card space. I mean, I know a lot of modern credit cards are doing this right now. They're making it more seamless in general, and they're making it easier for users. But remember that for the majority of people in the market today, they have to go into their branch, they have to fill out paperwork, they have to get pre-approved, they have to do a credit check, they have to go through so many different levels of inputs and verifications, where for Robinhood, this just takes minutes to do. So I don't think that should be understated as well. And while that in itself is amazing, don't get me wrong, I think the cherry on top of all of this with regards to the presentation point is the absolute flex of having a gold-plated card from a perceived status value perspective, if nothing else, right? Robinhood is offering a very limited batch of pure gold cards based on referrals. And I think modeling it after referrals is pretty genius, because so many people are going to be promoting this, they're going to be talking about this, and overall wanting this credit card above everything else. And when I made the post on X, people were even commenting with their own referral links, scrambling to get 10 referrals so that they can also get that gold card. And overall, I think a lot of people are going to be wanting this credit card because of what it represents, because it's so novel, it's different from anything that's out there, right? And that's going to ensure that so much money flows into the Robinhood ecosystem, it's going to be crazy. They showed in the presentation the acceleration of growth in similar product offerings that they've done in the past. And I think this is going to play a similar role for that business specifically, especially given the reception of this offering being so positive. And another part that I found fascinating was that they're partnering with Visa, and they also brought up the CEO of Visa, who literally in the presentation called Robinhood the one-stop shop for the next generation's financial needs.
Hi, everybody. As Vlad said, I'm the CEO of Visa. It's great to be participating in this amazing event, and Vlad, thanks for you and the team for inviting me. Robinhood has built an incredible platform. They've continued to open doors within the financial world to those who previously were unable to access it. From launching retirement to crypto to many of the things that you're seeing today, Robinhood continues to show how it's the one-stop shop for helping anyone build long-term wealth. And that continues today with the announcement of the gold card. And Visa is very excited to be partnering together on this next step in the Robinhood journey to launch and support the gold card.
And if that terminology sounds familiar to you, it's because SoFi is always referring to themselves as a one-stop shop. And the fact that the entire value proposition and the business model is this ability to have all of your financial needs met with one company, one vendor, one product, that was really interesting, right? Because all of a sudden you had Visa, which is a huge validation, come out and say, well, Robinhood is actually doing that. And in a post last night, Chris Hager even tweeted at Anthony Noto saying that the gauntlet had been thrown down. And I'm very much in that same line of thinking. And the reason is because SoFi has their very own credit card product. And they've recently been struggling. The credit card product is in full investment mode. I think something to the order of $100 million has been invested into that, and they're ramping that up as we speak. And in fact, we've mentioned on the SoFi Weekly podcast multiple times that the credit card business has the highest default rates across the board. Default rates that don't correspond with the other sections of SoFi's business, and sometimes don't even correspond with other competitors in the market. In other words, SoFi is somewhat struggling to get their credit card business up and running and achieving that critical scale. Now, you might be asking, okay, why does this matter? Because credit cards are such a small portion of financial services. Well, number one, it matters because it's going to affect the growth of that entire cohort, right? If Robinhood corners the credit card market and sets a new standard of excellence from a product perspective, SoFi is going to have a really difficult time competing in that market, convincing younger generations to get the SoFi credit card when everybody is rushing through the door to the Robinhood credit card. And secondly, it's going to matter because some of these benefits that Robinhood is offering in many ways doesn't even make sense to open a checking and savings account with SoFi, because on the Robinhood side, they can just give you that APY and put it straight into your brokerage account. And so there's a potential there with the benefits that Robinhood is offering to go even beyond the credit card offering. And I think third, it matters because it's going to be putting more pressure on SoFi to be offering more user benefits from their credit card division and actually hurting the profitability even more of that credit card division. So if they want to compete, they have to take more risks into that credit card product from a user perspective, which is obviously counterintuitive from a profitability perspective. And I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into that profitability point in just a second, but the fact of the matter is that people love to compare Robinhood and SoFi because there's overlaps between the two businesses. The reason why I personally don't like to compare the two businesses is because SoFi has an inherent competitive advantage by being a chartered bank and having this ability to offer mortgages, to offer personal loans, student loans. Robinhood, by contrast, is a leader in the brokerage and investing side of the business. I think both of these things can be true at the same time. With regards to this announcement specifically, it doesn't really matter that SoFi is a chartered bank. It doesn't matter that they're working on offering lending products and all of this other stuff that they offer. The fact of the matter is, with regards to this announcement, that the perception is the most important thing, because in the credit card business specifically, SoFi and Robinhood are going after the same cohorts of young generations. And those users, they're going to pick one main credit card to use. And as a result, if I'm in the market looking for a credit card, SoFi and Robinhood are direct competition for my business. And this is why this presentation matters, why this product offering matters, why I'm making this video in the first place. SoFi and Robinhood don't compete on everything, but on credit cards specifically, they do compete. And this is important because what Robinhood is offering is going to affect the growth rates of SoFi. I mentioned in my X post, even before this presentation, that Robinhood was the leader from a user experience perspective and a mobile app perspective. After this presentation, after this product offering, after this introduction, I feel that that gap has further widened. Robinhood is even more now than ever before going to be seen as the number one option from a user experience perspective. And the comments from the Visa CEO essentially crowning Robinhood this one-stop shop for the next generation financial needs speaks volumes in my mind, because while everybody loves a good user experience, it's much more important for younger generations because they've been growing up with amazing digital products their entire lives, right? If you look at somebody in their 60s, a great user interface is not going to be as important as somebody in their 20s. For somebody in their 20s, it's absolutely crucial. They can't even fathom the idea of going to, a Fidelity or a Vanguard or something like that. They need to have that user experience for Robinhood because all of the other apps on their phone are made from software companies that have great user experiences as well. And that's also a reason why this is a worrisome announcement for SoFi investors. And even if we move away from the app specifically, even the perceived status symbol, which is this gold-plated metal card, it's so different from other offerings out there that everybody's going to be tripping over each other to get their hands on one of these cards. I saw somebody online mentioning, imagine the flex it would be if you're on a date and you just drop this gold card on the table. Like, obviously it's a perceived status symbol. Even the most diehard SoFi bulls are acknowledging that and are looking to switch over. It's something similar to what Amex offers, right? Amex has their black card, their platinum card, all of their premium cards. And everybody knows what these cards are because they're coveted, and as a result of that, they're highly desired because of the wealth associated to even have a card like that, right? Okay, so moving away from the app and moving away from the perceived status symbol that is the post that I made received a bunch of comments with great points, which also spurred this video a little bit. One of those comments said, I believe Robinhood may have a better credit card option, but SoFi is still an all-encompassing bank with checking and savings. I also don't use the Robinhood app as I'm someone who doesn't trade much or is involved in crypto. As a side point, I will say Robinhood does have the crypto option. SoFi doesn't even have the crypto option as a result of being a chartered bank. And so with crypto booming, everybody's going to go to Robinhood. Robinhood's going to see a lot of that positive momentum. SoFi isn't. I replied to that post and I basically said that I agreed with the ecosystem being the moat for SoFi. But if Robinhood sets a new gold standard, pardon the pun, for credit cards in the market, they will steal away business from SoFi. And so then the question becomes, how is SoFi going to respond to this product offering? Are they going to introduce their own premium cards, or are they going to try to not compete at all in the market? SoFi has to maintain that profitability, right? They're a bank. They have to focus on that banking side of the business as a whole. They're held to higher standards because of that bank charter. And credit cards are a very small piece of this thesis. They're a very small portion of SoFi's growth, a very small portion of their total users, a very small portion of their profitability. Actually, it's an unprofitable section for SoFi, right? So it's a very small part of the thesis. And I do want to very clearly acknowledge that we could see a world where SoFi just ignores this. They don't respond, and in some part, they acknowledge that Robinhood is just going to take the majority of this space, and they concede a good chunk of that market to Robinhood. To some degree, as an investor, I don't love the idea of a war of attrition, right? In other words, just because Robinhood is offering these eye-watering benefits to users, that SoFi should just blindly jump in and do the same and have both businesses lose money until one of them declares bankruptcy in the end in an effort to capture the majority of the market. I don't necessarily agree with that, right? And that's, I think, the other nuance of this conversation, the other consideration we have to make is really asking ourselves, how is Robinhood going to make money with this offering? We know that they're going to have a ton of money entering the ecosystem due to that increased demand from people. What we don't know is we don't know the unit economics, we don't know the profitability metrics, and we don't know necessarily how this is going to work in the fine print. If I use SoFi's credit card business just as a case study overall, it's really difficult for me to find a way of layering in Robinhood's amazing user benefits on top of this to justify how Robinhood is going to be profitable with this offering. But don't get me wrong, if Robinhood does manage to get the numbers right, it could be a very, very profitable product for the company. But the flip side that I don't think enough people are talking about is that this could also ensure that they lose a lot of money for a long time from a profitability perspective. And in the worst case scenario, they're even forced to take this off the market altogether and lower those benefits after a while. Essentially what I'm saying is it's a balancing act. On one hand, you have the user benefits and what perks do you offer your users? And on the other hand, you have to balance profitability metrics. And right now, Robinhood is making a huge bet on their credit card business, and it's a point that I don't want to understate. If it's profitable, it can be very profitable. But if it goes south, it can go south very quickly. Last night, after the presentation, I was asking a couple of friends and people I respect around this card, and the feedback that I got was mixed. On one hand, hardened SoFi bulls were genuinely worried. And on the other hand, the feedback that I got was, if something sounds too good to be true, then generally it is. In other words, saying it's very risky to have this on the balance sheet if it's not done right. FICO scores are important. Incomes are important. The lowering default rates is the most important thing. And what I saw from the Robinhood presentation is they're able to get approved and have a card shipped to them in a matter of minutes. And that makes me a little skeptical of how scrutinous they're going to be for who is accepted and what the underlying financials are. What that presentation proved to me is that they're going to have a huge influx of demand. It didn't necessarily make me confident that they're going to be profitable with this product offering, but it did ensure that they're going to corner that market. That demand alone is something worrisome when you're looking at it from a SoFi investor point of view, because they're going to be stealing market share, essentially. And ultimately, I'm still not sure whether SoFi is going to respond with an offering of their own, a premium offering, or whether they should even try to compete in this space. I think it remains to be seen if Robinhood is essentially going to nail this offering, if it's going to result in huge levels of debt or huge levels of profitability. As a SoFi investor, I wouldn't want SoFi to jump head first and come out with a similar offering without doing the actual back of the napkin math ahead of time, especially when I know that their credit card business is already struggling as it is, if they offered even better benefits to their users that would even put them in a deeper hole than they're already in. It is this balancing act between the perception of a superior product offering from a user experience perspective and the profitability and the strategic direction from a company perspective. I found myself last night also digging up this post from Chris Patel in November 2023, where he said that if Robinhood and SoFi merged, they would dominate the 22 to 35-year-old market and reduce redundancy between the synergies. After last night's announcement, seeing how Robinhood has consistently made improvements and how they're really the market leader in user experience, seeing their credit card offerings from a perceived value perspective, I think more than ever that they'd be a perfectly fitting puzzle piece with SoFi. Robinhood covers the Invest app and the user experience. SoFi brings the bank charter and the ecosystem. I ended that post by saying a war of attrition hurts both parties, but a merger could benefit both. Do I think this is going to happen? Absolutely not. Even less of a chance now when Robinhood is double what it was back in November. I think both of these businesses have their own roadmap and growth prospects ahead of them. Neither is going to want to play nice with the other in a merger type of situation. Still, it's an interesting daydream to have. So to wrap this video up, is Robinhood going to steal market share away from SoFi in the credit card segment? Absolutely. Do I think Robinhood has the best credit card offering in the market right now? Probably. Definitely the highest perceived one. Do I think this is going to end SoFi's business as a whole? Is this an existential risk to SoFi? Absolutely not, because of that overarching ecosystem. Do I think SoFi is going to respond with an offering of their own? I'm not sure. On one hand, I want them to respond and I want them to be competitive in the space. On the other hand, I want to see how this plays out for Robinhood before wanting SoFi to jump in, because essentially Robinhood is betting the farm on something that is going to be high demand, but I'm not 100% sure is going to be high profit. And I don't want SoFi to blindly follow them into that fight just for the sake of competition. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and whether you plan on switching from SoFi into Robinhood. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.